When we were kids, it was a fizzy drinks company. As adults, we bought the beer. And now we're wearing masks to avoid the stuff.
Hungry? One cake enough for you. We talk about the man who bought just a few more.
From tighty whities to going tandem, we go personal with our review.
All this and so much more on this edition of the almost 30-minute quiz show. Press play, David. Press play.
Record.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Are we live? This is what it's going to be like on tour. Did we mention our tour?
We did, but only very much.
Hello, listeners.
Very much in passing. You really are very rude. Okay.
I said hello, and that's rude.
We're going on tour.
Yes. Where are we going? Anywhere fun?
Yeah, we're going to be going to Auschwitz.
Oh.
And
are we starting on that high, or are we just...
Well, no, you said we're going anywhere fun. We're going to Krakow, so if you're in Krakow, you have to kind of go to Auschwitz at the same time. We are headed to Lviv or Lvov.
Apparently, it depends which side of the border you're on.
Yes, Lviv if you are Polish and Lvov if you are Ukrainian.
Yes.
And we're going to Odessa.
Oh, I do like to be beside the seaside.
In Odessa. Good book and film.
Yes.
Odessa File.
And we'll be near the Potemkin Stairs.
Yep. So those of you who follow us on Facebook...
And we're doing all this on a train.
We are, which will be lots of fun. But those of you who follow...
Unless we're in fourth class, because I read about that. We're going to have to hold on for 11 hours on a bench.
And make sure that we keep our organs intact.
Yes.
We will post on Facebook and other places, I guess, our pictures as we're recording.
Yes. Shall I grow a beard this time? I grew a beard last time we went away.
Did you?
Yeah.
You've had a haircut.
I know.
You're almost as bald as me.
Well, no, it's just cut short, honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does grow.
I'm actually contemplating doing the shaving the middle bit now because my hair is disappearing so much.
No.
No?
No. Hold on to it while you can. You'll regret it.
I could grow a wraparound.
Oh, I had a teacher with one of those.
It's
and it like grew and grew and grew, and then he gelled it down.
No,
and all the kids would walk behind him, like shouting names.
We had a guy, John Schofield. He actually, I think, died unfortunately in an asylum. He had really wispy hair that he turned into a wraparound. Except every time the window opened in school, it blew all over the place.
Yeah, no, this guy's hair never moved. It was just whirled and whirled. I mean, he must have been growing it 20 years just to whirl it round.
Subscribe,
or go on our Facebook page, the Almost 30-Minute Quiz Show,
and like it, and share it.
And love it.
Absolutely.
And we're also on Instagram and Twitter. And we can be found on every decent podcast app.
Basically,
throughout the interweb.
Just type in the Almost 30 Quiz Show and you will find us somewhere.
30-minute.
What did I say?
You said 30.
It's such a long name.
Who came up with that?
Yeah.
It was a clever marketing ploy because people will think it's a quiz show and very serious.
Yeah.
And then we'll fool those people into staying.
Let's prove it by asking the questions.
Oh, we have got questions. Question number 1 this week. Alf Garnett was the lead character in which British sitcom named after the wedding vows?
I notice how you drop the T's at the end of the name Alf Garnett.
Well, this is like 4.
Garnett. Alf Garnett.
Well, he was from East London, but let's not answer the question.
Okay. Question number 2. What percentage of your recommended daily allowance of sugar can be found in a Krispy Kreme donut?
Number 3. Which top scorer of all time in the NBA became an actor in airplane movies?
Number 4. How much will the men's industry be worth in 2025?
Question 5. Which composer's deafness was attributed to syphilis, typhus, or lead poisoning?
That's quite a variety.
Well, they weren't really sure, but it was one of those. Or possibly, apparently, sticking his head in cold water.
We'll get on to that, I guess, after we take a quick...
a long break.
Okay, 6 seconds. We'll be back.
Okay, so my question first. Question number 1. Alf Garnett was the lead character in which British sitcom named after the wedding vows? And there are 2 answers to this.
Now,
at least.
Alf Garnett, I remember as a kid growing up, and I remember that my parents didn't want me to watch that program.
Was the question, tell us about your childhood, or was it about Alf Garnett?
No, I'm playing for time while I try to actually remember. Divided, United, Citizens, no, not Citizens.
Not Love Thy Neighbour.
Not Love Thy Neighbour, that was very iffy.
Mind Your Language.
Not Rising Down, not Mind Your Language. Death.
Yes.
Till death do us part.
Is one answer.
What was the other one?
In sickness and in health.
Well done. So this was just basically a Cockney complaining a lot.
Yeah. He was portrayed as a West Ham fan, and it was a observational comedy about racism and how the average British working class man was racist and didn't quite get on with black people.
So are we talking about racism?
No,
Well,
we're not.
I'll actually make the case that
Although
we
we
are.
we could talk about Brexit because this is like the complete.
I will
But
make,
we're not gonna talk
if
about
I
this.
remember over the next 5 minutes, I will make the case that there is racism involved in the story we're going to talk about.
Oh yeah, lots.
Yeah, but that's not the point.
No, the reason we're talking about it. What's the big news at the moment, and has finally knocked Megxit the front covers of most of the papers around the world. Thankfully, we're all panicking about coronavirus.
Which, as I said in the intro, when we were kids, Corona there was a fizzy drinks man who used to come to your house. Like,
Yeah,
knock on
I
the
mean,
door.
it's a very British thing.
Right.
They used to come round in lorries.
Right, and then you drink Corona beer with lime.
Yes, Mexican Corona beer.
Right. And now Corona means something else. By the way, I looked up a story today as to, because I thought maybe that the coronavirus would actually be good for Corona beer. But it turns out that in previous cases where there have been massive viruses, epidemics, whatever, if you had a similar name as a brand, you would lose about 50% of your business.
Yeah, I know. Swine flu washing powder is just not what it was.
Oh dear. Anyway, what did you want to say about coronavirus? Novel coronavirus.
Novel coronavirus.
Right.
Just, I don't know. I mean, every time one of these viruses comes out, and I don't want to be the one that says, oh, it's nothing, on the one time it does kill everybody on Earth, but then no one's going to be around if I get this wrong. But the world goes into an absolute mad panic and says it's a pandemic, which I actually looked up what a pandemic was.
Have they used the word pandemic?
Not yet, but we're apparently getting close.
And what is it?
It's essentially something that can spread very efficiently, and there is no cure for it. Coronavirus has killed, unfortunately, 360 China and one person in the Philippines.
Right.
So it has made it out of China, as planes fly out of China.
The person who died in the Philippines was Chinese. Yeah.
And there have been a number of cases around the world. I think there were 2 in the United Kingdom, about 4 in the United States.
2 in Italy, both Chinese.
Mainly Chinese people. And it's all started in this city called Wuhan in China, which one of the lessons learned in the future when this is all gone is you can build a hospital in about 10 days. And not just like a tent hospital.
Yep.
They've built a complete building pretty
there
much
are
in 10 days.
There are going to be 2 hospitals there, and employing 7,000 plus people.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I wouldn't want to be one of them, but thank you very much indeed to those people who are doing it, whether they are Chinese or people who've been brought in by the World Health Organization, which is tremendous. Should we just quickly do the racism bit since I mentioned it before?
Go on then, you're the expert on racism here.
Thank you very much indeed. I've heard quite a few.
I'm just an amateur. I just practice it regularly, but
I've heard quite a few media interviews with Chinese people, and what comes to light is that they feel to some extent persecuted. They feel if they're on a street, somebody will cross over the road rather than walk past them. And the question is, number one, is that a racist act, or is that simply people being precautious? And secondly, if this was something that would have begun in the West, would we be treating it in the same way and calling for 20, 30, 40 million people to be basically locked into the homes and not allowed out?
I don't know if there's a logic to it, but most of the major viruses that spread around the world come from, well, the last few have all come from China. Swine flu, bird flu,
Right.
now coronavirus have all come from Asia Pacific. AIDS is supposed to...
Well, not in the modern era. If you go back 500 years, I think you'd find they did.
but then...
What's the issue?
That
supposedly, hygiene, the education around hygiene in the West, supposedly is far superior. It's not surprising that we think that this coronavirus began in a fish market.
It's partly hygiene, but it's partly the relationship with animals, that these are diseases carried by animals. And in Africa, in China, people have a closer proximity to live animals, whereas we in the West, we barely see them now.
Very, very
in
good
built-up
point.
areas.
I just wanted to add one other thing, which is you were talking about the panic and so on. One of the problems that we've got with this particular virus is that in terms of the symptoms, it looks just like flu. There's very little difference between it and flu. Consequently, every time somebody sneezes or has a headache, they think perhaps they've got it.
Just one portent. We were talking about our childhood and the Corona bottle and bottles of Corona. Do you remember the top of the Corona bottle? It was all sort of knobbly and spotty.
Yes.
Maybe this was a sign that like spots and disease were
So,
coming from Corona.
actually, novel coronavirus. I can't even say it. Novel coronavirus is actually novel coronavirus.
Exactly. It's the knobbly bits at the top of the bottle that have spread through China.
Thank you, Mark.
High quality news analysis.
Question number 2. What percentage of your recommended daily allowance of sugar can be found in a Krispy Kreme doughnut?
My recommended daily allowance of sugar. And do I get to recommend how much sugar I have?
Well, you've lost a lot of weight of late, so maybe you're allowed
Not a
little bit
lot.
more.
I've started my diet, and it's still going slowly, very slowly.
Walking a lot?
Yes, I did 30% more walking in January than I did for the last 6 months, on average per month. So I've upped my pace a bit.
And you drink lots of water?
I do, and a lot of the walking is to the toilet and back.
But that's basically your secret. Cutting down on stodgy food.
Although we did have very nice potatoes and creamy sauce tonight, so that.
Well, it's nice of you to compliment my cooking for a
it's
change.
lovely. It's like a homage to Poland.
You took the pee out of me before for not
Don't say
answering
pee. I'm going to be doing another few.
You took the pee out of me for not answering the question about Alf Garnett before. You've so far avoided.
Because I don't know the answer.
Go on, have a guess. Just have a guess.
So I reckon I could manage 10 or 12 donuts a day.
Incredible. I can. If I refuse to have donuts because I know I'll do 6 each time.
And Krispy Kreme are particularly sticky and nice.
Right.
I would say there's probably half.
A quarter.
A quarter. Yeah.
But still.
David, why are we talking about donuts?
Good question. We're going to Canada.
Is there a donut virus?
Well, kinda. Poor Trudeau, Justin Trudeau. Poor. Cannot win. He is the darling of the left.
Has he been blackfacing his donuts?
Exactly. He's the darling of the left, but anybody right of whatever left is absolutely detests the guy and is constantly looking for reasons to lambaste him. And this
Lambaste?
Some people say lambaste.
Saskatoon.
Yes, exactly. Actually, you know what, we should do a survey and see who lambastes. Oh, talking of our listeners, Andy, we haven't forgotten you. You're on hold for next week. Lovely Andy sent us a question after our request last time.
He's going to get a star turn at this rate.
He will.
Because you mentioned him a couple of weeks ago.
I did.
Now he's got a question, but we've postponed it because we still don't understand it.
It's his beard that gets me.
It's going to be in next week's cryptic edition. Donuts.
Justin Trudeau goes. Where was he visiting? Which city was he in?
Winnipeg.
He pops into a donut store.
It was a Liberal Party cabinet away day that he was on.
So all of the government are there and their staff and so on. And they get hungry. And so he was doing a bit of PR, showing as a man of the people and also investing locally. Goes into a donut store.
Called O Donut.
Really? There you
Yes.
go. And he bought how many?
There were at least 6 boxes in the picture because he can't go to buy donuts without tweeting that he's bought donuts.
So the poor sod was photographed doing it, or he did it himself, the
Well,
photo?
he tweeted it pretty soon afterwards.
Okay, so then begins the debate. Yeah. On the one hand, there are those who say, isn't it nice that he's investing in the local economy and leading by example? And others who are saying, how dare the Prime Minister spend so much money on donuts for one measly little meeting?
How can it be so expensive? It's a donut.
Yep. How much you said? You reckon they were $4?
They were $4 Canadian a piece. 24 in a box. 6 boxes. Work that one out.
You're the numbers
It was somewhere between 300 and 500 Canadian dollars, which is about £2.50 in real money.
It's the same as US dollars.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about this?
We were talking about how the media has portrayed what is the simple act of going. Well, was it a simple act because the whole thing was probably stage managed?
Of course, it's staged. Nothing happens.
And then you've got one side saying, "Good man, you're investing, buying local, buying Canadian," which for most people is a good thing, and the other half saying, "What a terrible human being he is because he's spending £500 of taxpayers' money on his fat friends or eating fat donuts."
Do you think it's a story that should be covered?
The only reason we're talking about it is my son, bless him, has decided that he's taken over as producer of this show. As I was coming home the other day, on my WhatsApp was a list of what we were going to talk about.
How many of the things have we stuck with?
One.
Just this one.
Donuts.
So here's my point on this. So in other words, to your son Jude, I'll say the following.
This was news to him. He was like so excited. He kept going on about the Trudeau scandal.
Okay, so I get why this is news. I understand. I've been in the news business for many years. I get it. But in 2020, in Canada, these are the issues that the people should be worried about and the people should be talking about and the media should be focusing on. The debate on income tax, climate change, the shape of pipelines in Canada in the years to come, the medical assistance for dying people, farmer care and gun control. Those are all the key issues that are on the agenda in Canada right now, and I think it's bloody ridiculous that people waste their time on nonsense like doughnuts, and he should send them all to me.
Question number 3. Which top scorer of all time in the NBA became an actor in airplane movies?
Now, I love the airplane movies, and there's only one possible person that it could be. And he is one of the co-pilots. He's the engineer.
Roger.
Yes, he's Roger.
Not Captain Over.
Yes. Shirley, you can't be serious.
I am, and don't call me Shirley.
Yes, it's a hospital. That's a hospital. What is it?
It's a building full of sick people with coronavirus, but not now.
What's his name? Kamal Abdul-Jabbar?
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Jabbar.
Why are we asking this question?
I think it's fairly obvious.
Yes. And ironically, we're talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar flying an aeroplane.
When?
In the same week where, unfortunately, Kobe Bryant, who was, I think, the 4th top scorer in the NBA, and also played for the LA Lakers and won the NBA title 5 times, along with Shaquille O'Neal.
When Mark says, I think he was the 4th highest scorer, he actually knows.
And I didn't look this up. Actually, I did look that up. He's just ahead of LeBron James at the moment, who'll overtake him soon. But, I mean, Kobe Bryant was one of the main superstars in the recent history of NBA, known as the Mamba. Played for the Los Angeles Lakers for his whole career, was an all-star 18 times, and apart from a little unfortunate rape mishap in his younger days where he was accused of raping someone in a hotel, the charges were dropped when she refused to testify and it was settled out of court. Very, very symbolic of LA basketball, which hasn't recovered from him stopping playing. And unfortunately, he and his daughter were killed this week in an accident with a helicopter over Calabasas in California.
I am going to take the conversation on from there towards crashes.
Okay.
So I was wondering how safe or otherwise helicopters are. So I started to dig around. If you take everything that flies that is made by humans as opposed to birds, enjoy the chocolate orange that you are munching on at the moment, airplanes, helicopters, blimps and so on.
Really good chocolate orange, sorry.
This is a serious thing we're talking about, Mark. 7.28 crashes.
I forgot we were in the middle of a political broadcast.
7.28 crashes for every 100,000 flight hours. 7.28. With helicopters, that number goes up to 9.84. In other words, if you take helicopters out, they are 35% more likely to crash in terms of every 100,000 hours flown than all the others put together.
So how does that compare to cars, Stato?
I would imagine cars are far, far less safe. In 2018, there were 121 reported helicopter crashes in the United States, which brings us, rather sadly and tragically, on to this week's...
It's the longest intro to a listicle we've ever done.
But in this particular case, it's the story of Kobe Bryant and this particular crash that has made the headlines. And unfortunately, as we'll discover, a lot of the names on the list of famous people are people who've been forgotten.
So number 1 was obviously Kobe. Number 2, Stevie Ray Vaughan, 6-time Grammy Award-winning musician and a blues specialist. He was killed in a helicopter crash.
Now, this is somebody that I do remember very well from my younger days, Colin McRae, who was a champion rally driver. He won tours all over Europe and beyond, and like all the others on this list, unfortunately died in a helicopter crash.
Was sort of the Kobe of the rally driving world.
Yeah.
And talking of that, Steve Hislop, who was the 11 times Isle of Man TT motorcycle race winner, was also killed in a helicopter crash. These people put their lives at risk doing what they knew to do, pardon my French.
Yep.
You know, they were experts in driving at high speed and could have died at any moment. People die in the Isle of Man TT every year.
We know that celebrities and the rich and so on fly a lot more. But do you also think that, we're mentioning McRae and Hislop, people seek out thrills?
Partly. I think it's partly they just have no fear of these things. They're so used to driving around at 200 miles an hour, getting into a helicopter that could be blown off track by wind or a bird. You know, they take calculated risks all the time, so therefore it means nothing to them.
Matthew Harding was part owner of Chelsea Football Club.
Yeah, and died on the way back from a game. And on that note, Vichai, you'll excuse my pronunciation here, Srivadhanaprabha was the owner of a very large duty-free corporation in Thailand and bought Leicester City Football Club and donated a lot of money to Leicester City Football Club and turned them into league champions, the only one to break the monopoly of the Big Six in England in about 30 years.
And 15 minutes or so after a game?
Yeah, he actually died in the car park of Leicester City Football Club going from a game.
While the fans, the players were still there.
Yeah, they were interviewing them afterwards, I think, and you could hear the boom in the background as it went down.
That was the one that got the most sort of live coverage, as it were, just because of the circumstances. And finally, Patriarch Peter VII of Alexandria.
Who none of us know, but it just was a nice alliteration. Patriarch Peter.
And I know normally that our listicles are somewhat more amusing, and if Mark's producing, somewhat more filthy. But just on this particular occasion, let's remember those folks who unfortunately died in these terrible crashes. And finally, time for some smut.
That's not finally. We've got more smut after this.
Well, yes.
A double header of smut.
And double, as we'll find out in a minute, is actually where we're going to start. But first of all, the question, number 4. Mark, how much will the men's underwear industry be worth in 2025?
Are we talking the new industry or the second-hand underwear industry?
I'm taking out any dispensing machines in Japan that you may be thinking of.
I'm trying to work out what that is. There is a celebrity second-hand underwear market as well, but we're really not going there.
You just did. Anyway, so do you want to answer the question?
Not since the court order. I'm not allowed to go there anymore.
Yes, Father Christmas.
Ho ho. Is it around $25 billion per year?
You're saying that because of the number 25. No, it's predicted to be $16 billion.
See, I overdid my pants there.
You did. That's just the men's.
Which could be a euphemism.
I assume, and I didn't look this up, that the women's underwear industry will be worth way, way, way more than the men's, even though in terms of material used, it's probably way, way, way less.
I don't know. There is some proportion. I mean, you can buy women's thongs very cheaply, apparently. I have not been perusing the catalogue section.
Okay, now here's the truth. Mark and I, me in particular in this case, spent about an hour this evening before recording
looking up
underwear because we've come to
looking up underwear.
Excellent.
That's also illegal.
We've come to our review section, and this time we are taking very brief reviews.
Brief,
Thank
excellent.
you. On underwear. But what I want to start with is not necessarily a review, but rather just a product that got me thinking about all of this, which is...
And I'm still trying to work out why you were reading this article.
I have no idea, but this is 2-person underpants. Could you, when we're actually posting this to the interweb, could we use one of these as the photograph this week? Or
yes.
Yes, is that doable?
Yeah, they look a bit odd when they're empty. When they're empty, they just look like underpants for people with fat legs.
But we also have a picture of models wearing them. So it's...
What is the purpose of two-person underpants?
I think the idea is that you get your bodies very close together, can't move away from one another, and then you canoodle. Or can-oodle.
And do you really need a set of underpants to do that? Can't you just strap each other together?
I imagine if one of the
glue,
one of the partners is more into closeness. Yes, if one of the partners is more into closeness than the other, at least this way you can keep your into whatever the word is as close as possible.
Surely, for some of the same-sex spouses, you want to change the orientation of the legs.
Yeah, it works.
You don't necessarily want to be like face to face.
What we're talking about is what looked like, at least in the pictures, a pair of 1970s,
Adult diapers.
1970s kiddies, I was going to say kiddies water leaky.
Yeah, that you put over their pants.
Yeah,
Just
and with 4 holes.
the sort of things you find by the side of a swimming pool normally.
Exactly, which brings us very nicely for a couple of minutes onto our review section. Do you want to take us away?
Okay. And these are Hanes Ultimate Men's 5-pack Fresh Something by Hanes Ultimate in extra large, colour black grey. Verified purchase. Absolutely the worst underwear I've ever had. They are so baggy and loose in the areas that matter most. You get an added bonus when you wear these. Chafing. Make sure you get some A&D cream when you buy these.
What is A&D cream?
I think Vaseline or something.
Okay,
Whatever,
you would know.
whatever deals with chafing, it's not an issue for me.
The next review is Under Armour Men's Charged Cotton Undies by a company called Under Armour. These are the worst
Also
underwear
extra large.
ever, and it's also a verified purchase. Thank you. Yes, extra large. I think we find, especially when Americans are ordering their underwear, they tend to be on the extra large sides, especially those people who are reviewing them in a negative
Is
way.
it anything to do with the doughnuts?
Highly likely. Actually, it'd be very funny if we see one from Jay Trudeau. I've worn a lot of underwear in my 70 years, and these are by far the worst. They stretch out just after a few washes. They don't stay up at the waistband rolls. Save your money. It's best to go commando than wear this junk.
Nice. This is for me. Amazon Essential 4-pack ladies underwear.
Did you just say this is for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
But these are from Kay, who wears a medium, and her colour choice was cool. These would have been great, but there's a very thick, long tag in the back that is almost wider than the thong material. Super unnecessary and inconvenient. And of course, it's so thick that if you cut it off, it will be very, very uncomfortable. Returning, Amazon has let me down again.
And finally, the incontinence underwear for men by Continuum Living. No, we should not.
I've not seen these.
Can I point out, we should not be laughing about... I'm laughing at the review, not the fact that somebody's incontinent.
I'm just laughing that these have appeared because I thought we were doing regular underwear.
Yes,
Anyway.
So this is 2 stars, which is better than the others. It's a verified purchase.
Small.
And it's headlined, nope, they were too small.
The clue's possibly in the sizing. Small.
And my husband is only 5'6" and 140 pounds. Plus, the Y gaped open a little
Which
bit.
is really not you wanted a continence pants.
So during the break, we were talking about segways, and Mark asked if when we go on our 30-minute, almost 30-minute quiz show, Extravaganza Abroad, if we'll be using segways. But the real reason I mentioned segways is because you've done a really clever segue in your last question, Mark.
And I was going to talk something about people writing in saying that the last article was pants. But
Oh dear.
yeah. Anyway.
Yes.
Question number 5.
Yes.
Which composer's deafness was attributed to syphilis, typhus, or lead poisoning?
Well, I don't know which of those 3 it was, but the answer would be Ludwig van Beethoven.
Ah.
I assume.
No, it's good.
So why is there a segue in there? Can you explain?
Why are we talking about deafness and syphilis? And
Well, because
Van
you're
Beethoven?
obsessed.
Because we have to finish off on a sick note.
Okay.
So there was
Note.
Note.
La.
Oh gosh, we're segueing all over the place.
Yes.
No, we're talking about Beethoven because Beethoven was deaf, and we're talking about syphilis because there was a wonderful article, as there always is at the end of the show. This time, it's about a deaf man who is suing Pornhub, which I believe is a pornographic website. I don't know if you can help me here.
Mark, you know how you just said believe? Okay. For months, you've been sending me links to videos of a sexual nature that come from either that particular website or one of the others that frequent your browser.
No, it's only for the show, though, and you keep rejecting them.
Yes.
I'm trying to take the show down market,
Yeah.
further
research.
down market.
It's research for a podcast.
And that's what I say every time it's
We're
found
going to
in
have
my
to turn it
browser
into a
web.
video cast. Mark.
Okay. So, deaf man sues Pornhub over lack of subtitles, or closed captions, as they're called in the States. A man who is deaf has sued Pornhub and other pornographic websites because he said he cannot enjoy video content without closed captioning. Yaroslav Suris, a New York resident, tried to watch Pornhub entitled Hot Step Aunt Babysits Disobedient Nephew. And a sexy cop gets witness to talk and others between October 2019 and January 2020.
How many times did he watch them?
He didn't. I mean, he tried to watch them, but could not due to the website's lack of closed captioning, according to a lawsuit filed in the Eastern District of New York this week. The question is, why do you need subtitles? What is it about a pornographic movie that says you need subtitles? Don't know.
Mr. Link Sender.
I don't know. I don't know the first thing about this. However, I am led to believe that Pornhub are investing in a man that will start doing
What, sign language?
sign language
Oh
in the
my
middle of
gosh.
pornography.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine what the signs are going to be? Well, some of that. Hang on a minute. A lot of it, you don't need the signs.
What's the sign language sign for a squelch?
What's a squelch?
It's like a squelchy noise.
Oh, you mean one of these? Hold the microphone a minute. You mean one of these?
How does one do that in sign language?
Brilliant. I mean, it's going to be worth taking a membership out on Pornhub. just to watch the guy in the corner.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you for another episode in a couple of weeks. Good night. Right, where are we on the internet? www.pornhub.com